The final volume of Attack on Titan, Volume 34, first became available for purchase on June 9th, 2021. The final chapter had already been published in a weekly magazine, but 8 additional pages were added in the release of Volume 34, including a bonus page. With the addition of just a few extra pages, the story changed from having an emotional ending to having a cruel and even more beautifully written one. For the weekly readers, it must have felt like they got to enjoy 2 different stories in one. They were able to fully experience the genius writing of Isayama-sensei, right up until the last volume was released. On the other hand, for those who only got the finished manga, I'm sure they're wondering what parts were added to the story. Do you know which pages were? In this video, I'll show which pages were added to Volume 34, as well as my interpretations of what they mean. Even the reason behind Mikasa's headaches, a big mystery for many years, was also revealed. If you didn't understand parts of Volume 34 while reading it, please take a look at it again while listening to the video. Please be aware that this video contains spoilers for the final volume of the manga. The truth behind Mikasa's headaches. One of the greatest mysteries in Attack on Titan was what caused Mikasa's frequent headaches throughout the story. Mikasa's headache was first shown in Volume 1, Chapter 2, early on in the series. She had a throbbing headache after Eren's mother, Carla, was eaten by Titans. She mutters, "Oh, this again," with her hand on her head, suggesting that this was a regular thing for her. Mikasa would go on to suffer from these mysterious headaches many times throughout the story. Even in Chapter 138, the one right before the final chapter, she had a severe headache. However, despite always being portrayed in such a meaningful way, the cause of Mikasa's headaches was not revealed in the final chapter in the weekly magazine. This mystery remained after the conclusion of the series, but was explained in the version of the final chapter released in Volume 34. 2 pages were added in the middle of the last chapter after Armin comes forward and says he's the one who killed Eren Yeager. Mikasa sees the spirit of the founder Ymir. She says to Ymir, "It was you this whole time, the one who was always peeking into my mind. Your love must have felt like a never-ending nightmare. All the lives that were taken can never be brought back. But it's only because of the life you brought into this world that I stand here today. Good night, Ymir." In other words, the cause of Mikasa's headaches was most likely Ymir, because she was looking into Mikasa's head. She says Ymir was peeking into her mind, but was she reading Mikasa's thoughts, or was she looking at Mikasa's memories? It isn't clearly stated. Also, Mikasa is an Ackerman, people that can access Titan power while in human form. It's possible that the founder Ymir not only looked into Mikasa's head, but also had the ability to manipulate her mind with the power of the founding Titan, and she got a headache whenever that was happening. As you can see, there are many possibilities, but I think it's safe to say that Ymir was definitely the source of Mikasa's headaches. The conclusion of the final chapter. In Volume 34, 4 additional pages were added after the last page that was published in the weekly magazine. These gave a completely different tone to the ending. The last scene published in Bessatsu Shonen magazine starts with Mikasa at the foot of a tree on a hill where Eren's grave is erected. Mikasa says, "Eren, everyone will be here soon to see you. You're happy, right? I wish I could see you again." As she says this, a bird suddenly comes and wraps Mikasa's scarf around her with its beak. Mikasa looks at the bird and says, "Thank you for wrapping this scarf around me, Eren." So we can assume that this bird was representing Eren. Some people think maybe he was reincarnated as a bird. However, the species of this bird is a skua, and in North American English, it's called a Jaeger. The name of the main character, Eren Yeager, might have come from this bird. The story in the weekly magazine ends here. Isayama-sensei selected the 69th chapter to be published in the magazine, together with the final chapter. The last scene in chapter 69 also ends with Captain Levi saying, "Thanks, you guys." In other words, the story ended with the thank yous from Mikasa and Levi, concluding in a way that expressed Isayama-sensei's gratitude to the readers. As you can see, in the weekly magazine's ending, the main character Eren did die, but Mikasa meets Eren as a bird after death, and the world seems to have finally found peace. doesn't it? However, in Volume 34's version of the final chapter, 4 pages were added after this, and the ending suddenly became a lot darker. The last page is added in Volume 34. The last pages in Volume 34 show the world after Mikasa's final scene. The first new panel shows an adult woman, man, and a child visiting Eren's grave. I assume from their hairstyles that Mikasa married John, and eventually they had a child. John was shown as being concerned about Mikasa multiple times throughout the story. I guess the two of them ended up getting married. Let's not forget about what Eren and Armin were talking about at the beginning of the last chapter. There's a part where Armin says to Eren, "At the very least, Mikasa ought to forget about a heartbreaker like you and find happiness elsewhere. If she tried, I get the feeling she'd easily find someone nice and live happily." Eren says back to Armin, "I don't want that. I don't want Mikasa to find another guy. I want her to only have feelings for me. Even after I die, I want her to keep thinking about me for a while, at least 10 years. Later on, he also says, "Don't tell Mikasa I said that. I want her to be happy." Based on these scenes, and due to Mikasa's eventual marriage to John, although she only thought about Eren for many years, as he wished, I think we can say in the end, she found the happiness she deserved. Also, if we look through the rest of the extra pages, you can see Mikasa as an old woman, dying with Eren's scarf wrapped around her. So we know that Mikasa had spent her whole life thinking about Eren, all the way to her deathbed. I think Jean understood that and still chose to marry Mikasa. They say that Eren talked not only with Armin, but also with his other friends from the 104th class of cadets before he died. Perhaps he asked Jean to look after Mikasa when he talked to him. The extra pages up to this point were pretty emotional, but the problem was with the pages from here on out. The ending of Attack on Titan. After Mikasa's death, the tree near Eren's grave grew bigger and bigger. At the same time, a war must have broken out because the buildings around it were all destroyed, and so the world was left in ruins. The large tree on Eren's grave didn't take any damage though, and continued to grow. Eventually, the tree had the same shape as the tree where Ymir the founder became the first Titan. The story ends with a child and a dog coming to the giant tree and looking up at it. That's the final scene. And the meaning here is that history repeats itself. In the last chapter, Eren sacrificed himself to rid the world of Titans. After that, Armin, as the savior who defeated Eren, appeals to the world for peace in order to end conflict between humans. In fact, at the time Mikasa died, many buildings had been constructed and civilization was flourishing, so Armin's peace negotiations must have gone well. But after a long time, probably long after they all passed on, despite Eren and Armin's efforts, war broke out again. And the child who found the giant tree at the end is the equivalent of the founder Ymir, who also found a giant tree. If so, we can predict what happens next. The child will enter the crevice at the base of the tree, and there, like Ymir, she'll become the host for the glowing centipede and obtain the power of the founding Titan. This giant tree was where the head of Eren, the heir to the founding Titan, was buried. In other words, the glowing centipede, which is the source of the Titan's power, and the giant tree that it's found under, come from the corpses of the final heirs to the founding Titan in each cycle. That would mean that maybe even before Ymir, there was probably an heir to the founding Titan who was killed and buried in the past. Also, it's not explicitly stated, but if we want to wrap the story up nicely, the last scene where war broke out again could have taken place 2,000 years after the time of Eren and the others. And everything implied by the title of the first chapter of Attack on Titan, "To you in 2,000 years," will happen again. To sum it all up, I think the last scene in Volume 34 creates an ending showing that the power of the Titans will never go away, and that history will always repeat itself. Attack on Titan was a world of dark fantasy, where many of the important characters died. If the main character Eren sacrificed himself, and still the cruel cycle is repeated once again, that would be a very suitable ending for a story like Attack on Titan, wouldn't it? The way the story is received depends largely on whether or not these 4 pages are there. So the weekly readers got to enjoy 2 amazing stories. If you haven't yet, please read Volume 34 and see how the story ends yourself. I look forward to hearing your thoughts and opinions in the comments. We've also taken a deeper look at the final chapter and its hidden meanings in previous videos. If you haven't seen those before, please check them out as well. By the way, there are 2 bonus pages after the story ends. 2 pages of Attack on School casts. I'd like to talk about those in a video focused on Attack on School casts in the future. Thank you for watching. I hope to see you again in the next video.